Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy and I'm glad you're here with me today. It's another rainy, stormy day here. We're supposed to get hail, maybe a tornado later, so thought I would jump on and get this stuff done. If you hear the dogs, I'm just going to apologize now because they are in the house. Alright, so today we are going to talk about everybody that testified after Higgins got done. Lally called the kids, and there was a media order. I guess originally the media thought that they weren't going to be able to show the kids, but they would be able to play the audio, and some of the audio got leaked by one of the Boston news stations, but I don't think it was very clear. Anyway, the reporters weren't allowed to live tweet or anything like that during the kids' testimony, but they were able to tell us about it later. So what I'm going to talk about as far as the kids go is just what I've compiled from a couple different sources. And I don't have any pictures for the kids because they're kids. Okay, so his nephew, Patrick, went first. Before he testified, McLaughlin, the lady that's always there with Lally but doesn't help him, she was up there, and Paul was up there talking to him before the jury came in. Paul's two daughters were also in the courtroom. When Kaylee, his niece, came in, a friend or cousin, a teenage girl about the same age as her, came in. They said there were like-aged children sitting in the courtroom when each of them were testifying, and then, of course, you know, the grandkid or the grandparents and their aunt and uncle. Both of them had to ID Karen. When Yannetti crossed Patrick, he didn't ask very many questions and said, "I'm so sorry you were asked to be here today." The kids were asked about the ring cam footage access. It was offered to each of them and Karen Reed, and they all declined. So she, in fact, did not have access to the ring cam footage, where everybody's saying that when she was upstairs, when her and Jen and Carrie went back to John's, that she deleted footage. She didn't have access. Her and the kids, none of them had access. They were only 14 and 11 when this happened. So, I mean, I get why he wanted him to testify to the extent that, you know, they spent time with them behind closed doors and had a front row seat to their relationship. But you have to think this is coming from a kid's perspective, and a kid's opinion about arguments and things like that could be very, very different than like what you or I would describe it as. Because like all the adults that have testified about it has said, yeah, they had arguments just like normal couple things. You know, it all sounded very normal for a 2-year relationship where, you know, you're trying to help raise somebody else's kids. But we'll get into all that. Kaylee said that regarding the Aruba fight, it started because John went into the kids' room and told Patrick to get off his iPad because they were on vacation. So he was kind of like, you know, get your head out of the electronics and like enjoy the moment kind of thing. And then Karen came in and defended Patrick and said he's just a kid. And then the argument kind of went from there, according to Kaylee. So that's how it started. And then I guess it morphed into the Aruba girls. Kaylee felt that Karen Reed was closer to Patrick than to her. John wanted the kids to plug their phones in his room at night and put them on his nightstand before they went to bed. The night of John's death, Kaylee had put her phone in his room on his nightstand. So when Karen woke her up asking her to call John and Jen McCabe, she said, "I don't have my phone. It's in JJ's room." So Karen went and got her phone and brought it back to her so she could make those calls. Both kids testified that fighting between Karen Reed and John had increased in frequency towards the end. It all sounded, like I said, very normal. DCF was never called. The defense asked, do you know what it means to raise your hand in anger? Patrick said, I do, and said that he never saw John or Karen do that to one another. John and Karen never argued outside the home. Sometimes Karen would ignore Patrick and not look happy sometimes when it was bad. He got in trouble for doing something wrong, and Karen would yell a little and had a bit of an attitude. He said sometimes things were good and sometimes things were bad, which, again, sounds normal. When it was good, he said that they were being a family and happy being around each other. Kaylee says that she heard Karen Reed say, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? On the phone. She also said that Karen was distraught and beside herself that morning. Kaylee didn't tell law enforcement that Karen said that on the phone, so this was a first. Yannetti said, how much have you been talking to Jen McCabe about the case? He asked that to Kaylee. Both kids called Karen the defendant, so you could tell that they had been coached in their testimony. Some of the words they used didn't sound like words kids would be using. Kaylee said her relationship with Karen depended on the day, but, you know, it's a teenage girl, and I can attest to that. Goes both ways on that one. She said John and Karen Reed's relationship was good at the beginning, but toxic at the end. John would walk away from fights, and Karen would follow, yelling at him. One night, John asked Karen to leave the house, and she said no, and he went and locked himself in his room for 30 to 40 minutes. Jen had texted Kaylee before because she was her coach. Kaylee said Karen Reed was shaky that morning, all worked up, almost like somebody had died. And she said that Jen McCabe was calm. She said Jen told her that John probably slept at somebody's house. Karen gave her a hug on the 29th and said, I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. And that's about the gist of it. I think one of the saddest parts of this whole thing is we know how excited that John and Karen and Kaylee were that she got accepted to Bishop Sheehan, and they told her from Bishop Sheehan she is actually going to Canton High School now. So I think that sucks, but not my call. All right, so next we had Dr. Rice, Dr. Justin Rice. He was the emergency room doctor that took care of John that morning when he came in the ambulance. He is an emergency medicine attending since 2008. Currently, he works at South Shore Health since October of 2023, and I've heard that those hospitals are sketchy, like you don't really want to go there, but I don't know. Good Samaritan Brockton, he started there in 2010. His undergrad was at William and Mary. He got a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. Then he went to University of Virginia Medical School, and he is board certified in emergency medicine. He said he worked from 6 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. on January 29th, 2022. He treated John O'Keefe. He came in at 6:47 a.m. He said John presented as unresponsive and intubated and had CPR in progress and ventilation. He said John was in cardiac arrest. There was no electrical activity of the heart. John's perfusion was severely limited, and he explained that perfusion is basically blood pumping through your body and getting all the necessary oxygen and nutrients and everything to all of your organs. So when organs are not getting normal oxygen or blood flow, they start to go into failure. He said even with good CPR, without perfusion of the brain, there could be brain death or poor neurological outcomes. He said John's initial temperature was 80 degrees, which is very cold. The goal was to attempt to rewarm the body because he said in a warmer body, the heart can function in a warmer environment. So the goal was to rewarm his body and hopefully be able to get his heart pumping again. After 30 minutes of resuscitative efforts, there was no change in his body temperature, and John was pronounced dead at 7:50 a.m. Dr. Rice's observations on physical examination were: to the head, he had a right orbital eyebrow region laceration, swelling, and contusion. He had breath sounds present bilaterally. He was pulseless, and he had superficial abrasions on his right arm, which he says were like scratches. But if you've seen the picture, they're not just scratches. He said that he evaluated him at a GCS-3. GCS is the Glasgow Coma Scale, and 3 is the lowest score you can get. And I have a picture of it here on the slide. It's an assessment of your verbal, motor function, and eye movement. And everyone comes with a score. And for the eye-opening response, if you have no response, it's a 1. For verbal response, if there's no response, it's a 1. And motor response, if there's no response, it's a 1, which equals 3, and that's what John got. So he treated Karen Reed that morning. At least his name is on the report. Her first vitals were recorded at 7:51 a.m. She came in as a Section 12 involuntary detention of a person with a mental health concern. Protocol for a Section 12, you're evaluated by a doctor, nurse's assistant, or physician's assistant. Sometimes they do blood work to determine that there are no medical emergencies, and he said it would be inappropriate to do a mental health evaluation if a person is intoxicated. They ran Karen's blood work, and it was drawn for an alcohol screen, and it came back at 93 milligrams per deciliter. Points on cross. The report shows that he was involved in Karen Reed's care, but he said he doesn't recall treating her or writing the report. He doesn't know who drew her blood work. Regarding John O'Keefe, they asked about the firefighter that said that he told him that John had been hit by a car or whatever. He says the firefighter did not tell him John O'Keefe was hit by a car, but he says, per the EMS report, a medic said, patient may have been struck by a vehicle. That's what he thinks, the report says. Then he's shown the report, and there's no mention of that statement or a vehicle whatsoever. And other than scratches on his arm, there were no injuries reported from the neck down, no broken bones reported, not a single fracture reported. And then I have a quick video here for you.
On my note, it says per EMS report. So one of the medics, as in one of the folks on the ambulance who brought Mr. O'Keefe in, again, I'm not right in front of my note, but as I recall, it said something to the effect of per EMS report, the patient may have been struck by a vehicle.
Well, can I show you a copy of that report?
Please.
You can take a look at that.
All right, so.
I'll ask the question. Is your recollection fresh?
Yes.
Is there anywhere on that report that says that the patient came in and there was a statement by EMS that the victim appeared to have been struck by a vehicle?
Just give me a moment to read through the.
Sure.
So no, there is not.
In fact, there's no mention of a vehicle whatsoever, correct?
That's correct.
So, yeah, there's that. On redirect, he said that broken bones and fractures were not noted because their focus was on core resuscitative medicine, and they were less focused on injuries and observations that were not related to resuscitation. And that makes perfect sense to me. Like, you know, your priority is we've got to get this guy breathing and we've got to get his heart pumping. And if he doesn't have some sort of injury that is the cause of the heart not pumping and him not breathing, you don't really care about that at that point. You're just trying to like get this guy, like save him, keep him alive. So that makes perfect sense to me. No x-rays or body scans were done. Again, that makes sense to me. And then once he was pronounced, there would have been no point. The medical examiner may have done some, but we haven't got to them yet. Dr. Rice's clinical impression of John O'Keefe was cardiac arrest with head trauma and exposure to cold. And that's about it for him. And then we had Dr. Gary Fowler. Oh, this poor guy. So Dr. Fowler is the chief of pathology and the laboratory medical director. He's a pathologist at Good Samaritan since November of 2015. His undergrad was at Tufts University. He got a biology degree. Then he went to Tufts Medical School. He's worked at Kearney Hospital since 1996, and he's still on staff there, but he's full-time at Good Samaritan. He is anatomic and clinical pathology board certified. He said there was no standing order for blood work on Section 12 patients, but it's not abnormal to check for alcohol. He says no alcohol swab is used when testing for blood alcohol content, so there's no contamination from the alcohol on the swab. In the ER, he said almost all of the alcohol swabs have been removed, so a phlebotomist can't mistakenly use one, and that they use betadine instead to clean the area before they draw the blood. On January 29th of 2022, Karen Reed's result for the alcohol test was 93 milligrams per deciliter. That's 93 milligrams of alcohol per deciliter of blood. He said whole blood, the blood components are not separated. And for plasma serum testing, blood components are separated. Red cells go to the bottom and plasma goes to the top. And that's done by placing it in a centrifuge for about 10 minutes and spinning it around really fast. The test for blood alcohol content uses plasma. And he said the concentration of alcohol in plasma serum is higher than it would be in whole blood. They don't convert to legal limit 0.08 at the hospital. There's a formula to do that conversion, but they don't do it there. Karen Reed's blood was drawn at 9:13 a.m. On cross, he said that there's a difference between like hospital lab testing and forensic testing. Hospital testing picks up something called NADH, which is the byproduct of the body breaking down alcohol. Certain things can cause a falsely elevated serum alcohol level, but the machine they use, he said it flags levels of things that can cause those false results. I think he said like high lipids, and he named off a few things that can cause the results to be wrong, but the machine will catch that, flag it, and basically tell you that, you know, this test is not accurate, it's not good, whatever. And then on redirect, he said nothing was shown on Karen Reed's test that would interfere with the results. And why is this poor guy, the judge was like, you have to keep your voice up, you have to keep your voice up. If you don't keep your voice up, we're going to have to turn off the fans, and then it's going to get hot, and everybody's going to get mad. And I felt so bad for the guy because we could hear him fine, but in the courtroom, I guess maybe not. But I got a little video for you about that.
All right, so doctor, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you. I think part of it is that you're saying so much and your voice is fine, and then it drops, and it's fine, and then it drops.
This
So
isn't
Paul,
his
can we
fucking
turn?
problem. Get this lady with the trunk who's huffing shit off her phone, and maybe she could hear this man. We could all hear him. Where's
Get
she
off the
talking?
phone, trunk woman. Get off the phone.
We could all hear him.
God,
Bev,
she's picking on
not
this
all of us
poor
have a
man.
mic implanted in our fucking mouth, Bev.
I can hear this guy fine, Jake. Are you having a problem hearing Dr. Feelgood here?
No,
Baller?
I can hear him fine.
He's clear as day. What is going on with Dr. Bev? Like, she is hating on good old Dr. Feelgood and Feller falling it from Nimbambu. She's giving this
Hands
guy
off,
so much
please.
shit.
Such a hard of all the witnesses so far. This man is getting her wrath, and he's I can hear him.
Out of all the nose
important
breathers
that
that
all
they've
the
had on the
jurors hear.
stand, this is the guy she's going to give the shit to. Breathing through their noses.
This is the guy.
What's
This is
happening,
the-
Jay?
This poor
Jay.
man.
I
Everything
want
you
to
say,
send a
doctor.
strongly worded
Yeah,
letter.
sorry.
Okay, so
Send the letter, Bob. Send it out.
I mean,
yeah,
Hold
but
on.
speak into the
Okay.
I'm
microphone.
gonna bring it really.
Bev, the man is talking into the fucking microphone. Have you lost your mind?
I mean,
Close.
this
All right,
weird
this should be better with
And
the
hopefully you can turn it back on
very
when I get better at this. So I'm
this
sorry.
poor man with threats of fans being turned off and everyone in the courtroom sweating
Yes.
profusely. Sir, you have no one to blame but yourself. Speak up, sir. Speak into the mic. I can't say it any other way. Jesus.
Like, seriously,
Christ.
she's like, listen, Jerry, you are fucked if this man who is talking into the mic can't do it any better. You're all going to sweat your ass for the next 3 hours because fucking I can't hear
man.
him.
Now I
This is-
feel great pain for this poor pathologist. I mean, this guy's just trying to come here, kick some knowledge, and he's getting flamed. Like an absolute flamethrowing by Judge Bev. Like, she's gonna, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm going to instruct you. If I have to turn off the fan, I expect you to place all blame on the man in the suit on the stand. That's it. Proceed.
And she's like, listen, I know someone almost passed out last week because it was too hot. I don't give a fuck. If this man doesn't talk into the microphone, sucks to be you, lady, that almost passed out last week. You're going down.
Objection.
It's hot. I'm hot too.
I mean, this poor guy, like, every time she would tell him to keep his voice up, he tried, he tried. And, I mean, half the time we can't hear Lally because, I don't know, he doesn't project his voice and he's very monotone. And there's so many times that we can't hear Lally, but, like, she's hammering this witness and I felt so bad for him. I mean, a witness shouldn't have to be like, oh, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, we're going to have to turn off the fans and it's going to get hot. And, like, basically made him feel like everybody in here is going to hate you if you don't keep your voice up. And then she was like, you know what? Turn off the fans. And like I said, you heard him. I'm hot. I'm sorry. I'm hot too. Like, calm down, Bev. Calm down. Okay, next we had Nicholas Roberts, and he is currently a field service engineer at Thermo Fisher since November of 2023. Before that, he worked at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab in the toxicology department. He started there in October of 2014. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Applied Forensic Science. He has a master's degree from Glasgow, Scotland. And after he got his degrees, he went back to the U.S. Virgin Islands, where he is originally from, and taught chemistry and physics. So he handled blood and urine tests for drugs and alcohol and did the serum conversions at the lab. In May of 2022, he was assigned the Karen Reed case. He explains about the serum conversions, how the hospital results alcohol concentration is usually higher because, as Dr. Fowler told us, concentration is higher in serum versus whole blood. So what this guy does is he converts the serum content to whole blood content. And he's shown Karen Reed's serum conversion report from May 3rd of 2022. He's got her medical records showing a serum alcohol level of 93 milligrams per deciliter. He said it was collected at 9:08. I think Fowler said 9:13. When they do these conversions, they come up with a low, average, and high range using different conversion factors based on different populations. So basically, everybody's body is going to do something different, right? Like, I have very high pain not pain tolerance, drug tolerance to pain medication, I guess you would say. Like, my mom could take something and she'd be out for like 3 days. And me at the hospital, they have to give me like double, triple doses before I notice anything. And I think it's just because I've had chronic pain for so freaking long. But like I said, everybody's body's different, so they kind of try to give you this range. Karen Reed's low range was 0.078. The average was 0.081, and the high was 0.083. So she, at 9 in the morning, was still in the legally drunk to drive range. On cross, he said, some assumptions have to be made when doing these conversions. The time of the blood draw and the time of the last drink are used in the calculations, and that's provided to them by law enforcement. And he was told that her last drink was between 12:45 and 2:45, or I'm sorry, at 12:45 a.m. And if that time is wrong, then all of the calculations would be different. Now, we know she left Waterfall before 12:45. They all left, like between midnight 12:15. Everybody was out. I don't know where they came up with this time that they think she was, I guess, drinking on the way to wherever. I don't know, but they told him 12:45. And he admitted that they were acting with a lot of unknowns in this case. Because, your height, your weight, did you eat, did you not eat? He was saying, so many different things factor in to your blood alcohol content. And I think we all know that. And if she had drank between 12:45 and 2:45 a.m., the entire calculation would be invalid. I feel like there's another slide for this guy. I don't know why it's not here. Hold on. Yeah. I don't know why it's not showing up. Well, let me just tell you what I have in my notes. So he basically explained that it's like a bell curve. There's 3 stages of how your body gets rid of alcohol, or how it processes alcohol. He said that over time, your level will decrease. So it's kind of like a bell curve. Like you're drinking, your alcohol is going up, you'll hit a plateau, and then it'll start to drop off when you quit drinking. He said that there's the absorption phase, the plateau phase, and the elimination phase. And people's elimination phases can be different. They did what was called a retro extrapolation analysis. And that basically, it takes your blood alcohol content, and then they do these mathematical conversions to tell you what your blood alcohol would have been prior, hours before. So he did that, and like I said, he was told her last drink was at 12:45, and he said they round to the nearest 15-minute interval. For this test, they come up with a minimum and a maximum. He said because, the body, maybe it's not in elimination phase. What rate does a person eliminate alcohol per hour? There's so many factors. The min is based on her low serum conversion number, and the max, the high, is the high serum conversion number is used. So he did this for Karen, and her minimum was 0.135 gram percent, and her max was 0.292 gram percent. And he said a person would be somewhere between that in the general population. So it's a broad range, but that's pretty high. It's pretty freaking high. But we don't know like when her last drink was. That didn't come from Karen. It came from a law enforcement assumption. He said elimination rate is pretty linear, but like I said, that it can vary from person to person. Yeah, and that's it for him. And then we have Michael Trotta. He is the superintendent of public works for the town of Canton since 2003, and he lives in Sharon, Massachusetts since 1982. In February of 2022, Trooper Michael Porter, he said, which I'm assuming he meant Proctor, contacted him by phone. He didn't know Proctor, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, or the Alberts, he says, which I find that hard to believe because of, you know, city council people, police, but whatever. Proctor asked what the procedure was for snowstorms, and he says there are 3-mile plow routes, 39 of their own plows, 30 plus private plows, and they try to have 2 trucks per route, 1 town truck and 1 private truck. Proctor asked who was at Fairview on January 29th, and then they show Trotta the plow plan for January 28th and 29th, and he goes through it and looks, and he says that route is Lower Cedar Crest Route 11. He said truck 30, driven by Brian L. It was a 4300 International, if that means anything to you. He said when there is 2 inches of snow, they plow, and they do the middle of the road, and their goal is to keep the middle open, so like 1 or 2 cars can pass before going back to do like their finish cleanup of the whole road. On Cross, we find out February 3rd, Michael Proctor called investigating John O'Keefe's death. They spoke on the phone only. Proctor never asked to interview any of the employees. Trotta says he may have told him the plow driver's name, but Proctor didn't ask. BL is Brian Laughlin, also known as Lucky in this case. He plowed Fairview, and Proctor never asked to talk to him. The call with Proctor was only a few minutes long. February 14th, a defense investigator named Paul Mikowski left his business card for Trotta. He says he doesn't recall, yet he told the defense investigator he should talk to Bill Walsh, who is the highway department manager. And the plow is named Frankenstein because I guess it's put together with like bits and pieces of others. That's it for him. And then Louis Jutras. He is the information systems manager for the town of Canton for 25 years and lives in, I believe he said, Stillman, Massachusetts. Gallagher told him that state police would be asking for video footage. Trooper Dunn called and asked for footage from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. on January 28th and 29th from the areas of, I know I'm going to say this wrong, Peckwitside Farm, the Pleasant and Washington Street cameras, and the Town Hall Library cameras that were facing Washington Street. The cameras are motion activated and footage is date and time stamped. Footage is overwritten every 30 days. The request was made on February 7th, so they were well within that time frame. The Town Hall Library, Washington Street side, the files from those times were exported and a file share link was sent to Trooper Dunn. It's video only. There's no audio on the cameras. Only he has access to the footage to remove it. He got information from the Department of Public Works that the GPS in the trucks and plows wasn't working during the storm. And then he's shown a CD that allegedly has footage on there, and says that's not what I provided, which was very interesting. And I got a video for that.
So I'm showing you a disc, just ask you to, as far as that video from the Canton Public Library, you've seen that video subsequently, is that correct?
This disc with the wording on it?
Yes.
No, I have not seen this.
Not that specific disc, I'm sorry, sir, but the footage, have you been shown that particular video footage, or did you review that footage before you gave it to the troopers?
This is not mine to the trooper.
Understood. May we approach?
Okay.
I thought, this is not mine. So he says that he did not watch the full hour of the videos. He didn't know if there was any missing footage. There is. He provided the raw footage. He said that he knew John O'Keefe was found dead. He was told the footage was needed in regards to a motor vehicle accident. April 6th of 2023, Michael Proctor asked him to provide the same footage to the defense, and he said he didn't have it because they didn't ask him to back it up, and he couldn't recreate it. And then I've got one more video from him.
You would agree with me that as the IT director, you had the ability, if you wanted to download the footage onto some hard drive to preserve it, if you wanted to do that?
Yes.
Did any state trooper ever ask you to download and preserve that footage so that it would exist longer than that 30 to 60 day period?
No.
And so it's fair to say you did not do that, correct?
Correct.
You complied with what they asked you to do.
Yes.
Now, skipping ahead to April 6th of 2023, you were contacted by Michael Proctor, a state trooper investigating this matter, correct?
I do not recall.
Do you recall Michael Proctor asking you to provide to the defense in this case the same raw footage you had previously provided to the state police?
No.
And you don't recall telling him that you couldn't do that because after 30 to 60 days, the footage is gone, correct?
I had a phone call with what I thought was Trooper Dunn asking for another copy of the data and telling him that I did not have it and I couldn't recreate it.
I see. Oh, so you were saying
if it was Proctor, but no, I thought I was speaking with Trooper Dunn.
Trooper Dunn was the name that you remembered from February.
Correct. That was the first interaction I had.
And when they mentioned state police, you assumed it was the same state police trooper, correct?
Yes.
It's fair to say that once you shared the footage with the state police in February of 2022, you didn't control what they did with it after that, correct?
Correct.
And you have no personal knowledge about how they preserved it or didn't preserve it, correct?
I'll allow it. Do you have any idea?
No.
And one last question. You cannot testify about whether any video was removed from the footage after you provided it, correct?
Objection.
Sustain.
Nothing further. Thank you.
There's something about this guy, like, he looked smug, and you know, I hated the way Matt McCabe looked because he looked really cocky and sleazy, but this guy, I'm like, why is this, I mean, from the time he sat down, I'm like, why does this guy look so smug? And then he starts talking about this, and I feel like he's just like, y'all messed up, this is on you, not me. This is not my fault. I did what you said, you didn't tell me to save it, so I didn't, you knew it was going to get overwritten, and it did, not my problem. So that was it for that day. That was it. There is no court today. It was a full day yesterday. I still have to make a presentation on those people. There were so many photos yesterday. Lally wasted a lot of time yesterday. No court today. There is court tomorrow and I believe on Thursday. Let me see. Yeah, no court today, full day tomorrow, supposedly going till 4:30 with a shortened lunch. Thursday, she said they'll probably be done by 12:30, and Friday there's no court. So, we will see what happens. If you haven't liked this already, please give it a thumbs up. Right underneath the video, you can give it a like, and you can subscribe using the button right under this video. And I would love it if you would do both, because it really helps the channel and it helps get my videos out there, and it's free. Also, in your comments, let me know what you thought of these witnesses. Did they help? Did they hurt? Did they contribute much? Just tell me what you think. Especially, tell me, do you really think it was necessary to have the kids there? I think it sucks. They've lost their mom, their dad, their uncle that adopted them. Karen Reed, who was like a mother to them, is no longer in their life. It's a lot these kids have already been through. And then to drag them into court, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that move, because really all they did was confirm that she didn't have Ring camera access, and that doesn't really help the Commonwealth's case. So what was the point? What was the point? Bring me Proctor, bring me a medical examiner, bring me anybody that can give me information that I really feel like I need. Don't bring me the kids. But anyway, like I said, thumbs up, subscribe, share, and have a great day. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.